Month earlier, the riverbed had run wide and brown. Now it was cracked clay with a few shallow puddles that stank of algae. The last water pulled animals in at first light, and it pulled danger in with them. A small herd of antelope moved along the edge, heads low, walking fast. Their ears kept turning toward thorn brush. A calf followed behind, too young to keep pace. Its legs were long but unsteady, and each step on soft mud slid before it found grip. The lead female glanced back twice, then pushed on, choosing distance over a risky turn. A male lion watched from shade under a fallen acacia. He was large enough that his shoulders rose above the grass when he stood. Dust clung to his mane, and old scars cut pale lines across his nose and foreleg. He did not rush. He waited until the calf reached the muddy pocket where reeds grew thick and the ground sucked at hooves. The calf stumbled and went down on its knees. It tried to rise, but the mud held its front legs and its back hooves spun. The herd drifted farther, bunching tighter as it moved, adults placing bodies between danger and the smallest ones. The calf bleated once, thin and sharp, then coughed as mud splashed into its mouth. The lion left the shade. He moved with a steady trot, saving energy in the heat. The calf saw him and tried to run, but the mud made every stride a fight. In seconds, the lion closed the gap. He struck the calf with a forepaw and drove it sideways. The calf fell, and the lion's weight came down across its shoulders. His jaws clamped near the throat, hard enough to control, not yet crushing. On a low ridge opposite the riverbed, Ranger Imran Siddiq lay behind dry grass and watched through binoculars. He had been on snare patrol since before dawn, moving slowly to look for wire loops and fresh tracks. A radio sat on his vest, and a small pack held cutters, bandages, and a dart rifle. He had seen lions take calves before. It was violent, but it was quick compared to what wire did. He kept watching because this riverbed was also a poaching corridor. 2 weeks earlier, his team had cut 5 snares near these reeds. One had held a warthog so long that skin had grown into cable. The calf's position, half in mud and half in cover, was exactly where a snare would sit, close to water for hoofprints, close to brush for concealment. The lion pinned the calf, and for a moment it looked finished. The calf kicked weakly and heaved for air. The lion shifted his hind feet to find stable ground. Then he stopped. He lifted his head and held it still, ears angled forward. His jaws loosened. He stared down, not at the calf's eyes, but at the calf's chest and the reeds beside it. The calf tried to twist away. The movement was small, but its breath hitched. Its bleat turned into a strangled sound, and its legs went stiff. Imran lowered the binoculars and leaned forward, searching for a glint. The sun was low, and the reeds cast thin shadows. The lion's mane rose and fell with breathing, and that motion made a line flash once at the calf's shoulder. Imran focused again. A loop of wire ran from the reeds to the calf, tight against hair, almost the same color as mud. The lion pawed at the calf's side, not slashing but pressing. The calf stopped thrashing, as if it had learned that struggle hurt more. The lion bared his teeth in irritation. He looked toward the reeds, then back at the calf, then toward the open riverbed where the herd had gone. Imran felt the decision form before he spoke. If he did nothing, the lion might leave the calf to suffocate, and the snare would stay to catch the next animal. If he rushed in, he might trigger the lion to kill in panic or turn on him. Help would be slow on foot in this mud. He clicked his radio and kept his voice low. "Base, this is Siddiq at the North Bend. I have a calf in a snare and a male lion on it, near the marker tree. I need backup. Access is poor." Static answered, then the duty officer came back, calm and clipped. "Copy. Nearest unit is 20 minutes. Vehicle can't cross the mud. Stay safe. Don't engage alone unless life is immediate." Imran watched again. The lion did not finish the kill. He kept the calf pinned as if the calf was a problem he could not solve. The calf's sides fluttered with shallow breaths. Each time it tried to pull away, the wire tightened and its head jerked back. A laugh-like call carried from downstream. Hyenas. One, then another, then a chorus. Imran scanned the far bank and saw shapes moving between bushes, low and quick, drawn by struggle and scent. The lion heard them too. His ears flattened, then turned toward the noise. Imran slid his pack closer and unwrapped the dart rifle. He checked the safety and the single-loaded dart, a light dose meant to slow, not drop. He did not want the lion fully down in mud where it could drown, but he also could not cut wire with a lion's weight on the calf and hyenas closing in. If he waited, the hyenas would force the lion's decision for him. The lion looked up again, and this time his gaze lifted toward Imran's ridge as if he sensed another watcher. He did not charge. He did not flee. He stood over the calf with his chest forward, owning the space, while the wire held the calf tighter than his teeth. Imran saw the loop's anchor vanish into reeds and understood it was set, not accidental, and it was still active. Imran stayed on the ridge just long enough to confirm the hyenas were real and closing. The lion stood over the calf and looked up at Imran, then back down, as if deciding which threat mattered. The calf's breaths came in short pulls, and every twitch tightened the wire another fraction. He keyed the radio. "Base, hyenas on scene, I'm moving in." The duty officer answered, "Copy. Backup is coming on foot. Don't get between the lion and his exit." Imran clipped the radio back, checked his kit by touch, and kept the dart rifle in his right hand. Bolt cutters hung from his strap. Bandages and antiseptic were packed tight. He had one mild-dose dart loaded and a second in his pocket. The dose was intended to slow reflexes, not drop the animal into mud. He moved along the ridge to a shallow gully and started down in a crouch. The wind pushed from the riverbed toward him, carrying mud stink and the sharp, sour smell of stress. He placed his feet carefully to avoid loose stones. He needed the lion's attention on the hyenas, not on sudden noise behind it. At the bottom, he paused behind reeds and watched through gaps. The calf lay half-submerged, neck stretched, eyes wide. The wire loop pressed into its chest, and the anchor line vanished into reeds. The herd was far off but still visible, bunched together and facing back. The first hyena showed on the far bank, then three more. They spread out in a loose arc, stepping and stopping, testing. None rushed the lion. They waited for a mistake. The lion turned sideways and showed his full size. He walked 2 steps toward the nearest hyena and gave a low warning cough. The hyenas backed off, then crept again. One tried to angle behind him toward the calf. Imran judged distance and terrain. Mud would slow him, and reeds would hide his legs until he was close. If he ran, he would splash and pull the lion's focus. If he waited, the calf might suffocate, and the snare would stay to kill again. He slid forward on his knees, keeping his profile low. Mud soaked his trousers and tugged at his boots, but he let it pull instead of fighting it. The calf shifted once, and a faint metallic creak came from the reeds as the wire tightened. A hyena saw Imran first and barked, sharp and quick. The lion's head snapped toward the sound. His eyes found Imran in the mud, and his body went rigid. Imran froze and lifted his left hand, palm open. "Easy," he said, not as comfort but as control. The lion's lips lifted enough to show teeth. His ears flattened. Then a hyena darted toward the calf. The lion's focus broke from Imran and slammed onto the pack. He lunged and drove the hyena off with a shoulder hit and a swipe that cut air. The hyena yelped and rolled away. The lion chased it 3 strides, then returned fast, planting himself between the calf and the others. Imran understood the behavior. The lion was guarding the center of the conflict because it was his space, and the snare had trapped the calf inside that space. If the hyenas took the calf, they would also test the lion until he bled. The lion's instinct was control, and control meant staying close. Imran used that return to creep closer. He kept the rifle up, but his aim stayed on the shoulder, not the head. Killing the lion would not remove the wire, and it would leave him alone with hyenas on a carcass. From a small patch of reed roots he could see the loop clearly. It was thin cable, rusted, twisted tight, biting into hair and skin. The calf's breaths were now small gasps. Its tongue flicked out once, and saliva mixed with mud at its lips. Imran keyed the radio again, brief. "Loop is tight. Anchor is set. Hyenas closing." The officer replied, "Unit is 10 minutes, hold if you can." Imran did not answer. 10 minutes was too long. He drew the bolt cutters and laid them beside his knee, keeping them low so they would not flash. He raised the rifle and waited for a clean moment. The hyenas advanced together, bolder, using numbers. 2 came straight at the lion's face, forcing his attention. 2 tried wide, and 1 circled for the calf's hind legs. The lion roared and charged the nearest pair. They scattered, laughing sounds breaking from their throats, and the lion spun back, refusing to be pulled away. In that spin, his shoulder opened for a heartbeat. Imran lifted the rifle and fired. The dart struck high in the shoulder with a soft thud. The lion snapped toward the impact and tried to bite the dart, missing. He bellowed and stepped toward Imran. Imran did not run. He held his ground, rifle up, body square, keeping his breathing slow. The drug took effect as delay, not sleep. The lion's step slowed into a stiff walk. His head dipped and rose as if the ground shifted. He shook his mane hard, blinked, and stood over the calf again, trying to steady himself. The hyenas sensed weakness at once. They pressed closer, yipping, edging in short bursts. The lion swung at one and missed, his paw slapping mud instead of bone. He corrected, but his timing was off. Imran left the reed roots and crawled toward the calf with the cutters in his left hand. He watched the lion's forelegs for a sudden lunge and listened for hyenas behind him. The calf rolled an eye toward him and tried to pull away, but the wire stopped it and stole its breath. Behind him, a hyena whooped and another answered, closer than before. Imran heard claws scrape on dry clay and knew one could rush him while he worked. He shifted his body to shield the calf's neck and kept the rifle within reach. The lion's breathing grew loud and uneven, but he stayed standing for now, barely. Imran reached the calf's shoulder. Up close he could see where the cable had twisted into the coat and where the loop tightened with each shallow inhale. The anchor line ran into reeds, tense as a drawn cord. The lion swayed a step away, still blocking hyenas by presence alone. Imran set the cutters on the wire and felt the metal bite into the strands, knowing that if he failed to cut cleanly, the next movement could turn this rescue into a killing. Imran set the cutters on the wire and paused, because the calf's next breath would decide whether he had seconds or none. The loop sat high on the chest, tight enough to flatten hair into a dark line. The calf's ribs fluttered, and its eyes were wide with the whites showing. He slid 2 fingers under the cable to lift it off skin. There was almost no space, and mud made his grip slip. The calf jerked at the touch. Imran pressed his palm against its shoulder to hold it still. "Easy," he said, steady and plain. The calf's throat worked, but no sound came out. The lion stood a step away, head low, breathing through an open mouth. The dart's shaft trembled with each sway. His ears kept flicking toward the hyenas and back to Imran. He did not leave. A hyena barked behind the reeds. Imran heard claws scrape on dry clay. Another yip answered upstream. They were spreading around the pocket. Imran tested the cutters with a small squeeze. The strands resisted and vibrated into the calf's skin. The calf flinched and its breath stalled. He released at once and waited until it pulled in air again, shallow and fast. He needed one clean cut. If he half-cut the cable, it could snap wrong and tighten again. If he took too long, the calf would choke or the hyenas would rush. The lion lifted his head and growled. 2 hyenas had come within 10 meters, heads low, shoulders rolling. They stopped when the growl deepened, then edged sideways, trying to draw the lion away. The lion lunged, slowed by the drug. His body rose late, but his paw still reached the nearest hyena and forced it back. The others scattered, then returned in a wider arc, waiting for him to fall. Imran used the gap. He shifted the cutters to a better angle where the cable crossed itself. His left knee sank deeper, but he let the mud hold him steady. He set his weight forward so his arms would not shake. The calf's chest rose in tight movements, and each rise tightened the loop like a ratchet. Imran followed the anchor line into the reeds and saw the twist where the snare had been locked. Someone had set it carefully and covered it with dead grass. He put the cutters on the cable again. The calf trembled, legs kicking weakly. Imran pinned the calf with his forearm, firm but controlled. The calf tried to breathe and could not fill its lungs. Imran decided. He closed the cutters hard and did not stop. The handles bit into his palms through gloves. The cable resisted for a fraction, then strands gave way in quick pops. A sharp snap cut through the noise. The loop loosened instantly. The calf sucked in air with a wet gasp and coughed mud. Its ribs expanded for the first full breath in minutes. Imran pulled the loose end away from the chest and held it down so it could not cinch again. The lion reacted to the sound. He stepped toward Imran, then checked himself, swaying. His eyes were bright with anger and confusion. He showed teeth, but he did not bite. He looked from the calf to the hyenas and back as if the scene no longer matched his instincts. Imran kept his body low and his rifle within reach. The calf tried to stand at once, slid, and collapsed onto its side. It lay still for a beat, and Imran feared the cut had come too late. Then the calf lifted its head and coughed again. It pulled in another breath deeper. Its front legs tucked under and it pushed up onto its chest, trembling but alive. Hyenas surged at the movement. 3 came forward in short rushes. The lion roared and charged, slower now but still huge. He drove them back with weight and noise. One hyena tried to dart around him toward Imran. Imran raised the rifle and shouted once. The hyena stopped, startled, then backed off. The lion returned to the calf and stood between it and the hyenas, head lowered, tail stiff. When he shifted, his front paw left a dark smear in the mud. It could have been water, but it was thicker and red. Imran grabbed the anchor line in the reeds and yanked. It did not move. The stake was deep. He cut the line as close to the ground as he could, then twisted and pulled until the remaining wire came free. He stuffed the severed loop into his pack. Leaving it would mean another animal would die. The calf tried again. Imran moved to its side, keeping his body between it and the hyenas. He slid a hand under its chest and lifted slightly, guiding its weight forward. The calf's legs shook hard. It slipped, caught itself, and rose on all fours. It stood for 2 seconds, swaying, nostrils flared as it drew air. Then it stepped toward firmer ground. Mud released with a sucking sound. Another step followed, then another, each one cleaner than the last. Across the open clay the herd had stopped. Adult females faced back, bodies tense. One broke from the line when the calf moved. She came forward fast but cautious, eyes fixed on the lion. The lion watched her too. Imran expected the last-second kill that would make the rescue meaningless. It did not come. The lion's legs seemed to argue with his intent. He took one slow step, then stopped, breathing hard. The mother reached the calf and touched noses, then pushed at its shoulder and flank, checking it with urgent nudges. The calf leaned into her and made a small, hoarse sound. She turned her body to block the calf and guided it back toward the herd. Imran stayed in the mud and watched the hyenas. They had backed off but had not left. They waited for the lion to drop. The lion held his ground by will more than balance, swaying under the drug. Imran looked again at the lion's front paw. The red smear tracked with each shift. A cut marked the pad, and a thin line around the joint looked like an old wire bite that had opened again. The lion flexed the paw as if it burned. Imran reached for his radio. "Calf is free," he said. "Lion is drugged and bleeding from the front paw. Hyenas still present. I need the team now." Static answered, then the duty officer came back. "We're at the bank, 2 on foot with meds. Keep eyes on the lion. Don't let the hyenas commit." Imran wiped mud from his hand and checked his remaining dart. If the lion collapsed, the hyenas would be on him in seconds, and the drug could turn a controlled rescue into a frenzy. He chambered the second dart but kept the safety on. The lion took 2 uneven steps toward the brush, then stopped and looked back at the calf's retreating herd, blinking slowly. Imran stayed between the lion and the closest hyenas, ready to move and fire. Imran kept the rifle low but ready while the lion swayed at the edge of the reeds. The hyenas tested the space, stepping in and out as if measuring his resolve. The calf and its mother were now moving on firmer ground, the calf's gait uneven but improving. Boots splashed behind Imran. 2 rangers arrived from the bank, Yusuf and Mariam, carrying a medical bag and a coil of rope. They stopped when they saw the lion and the hyenas. Yusuf raised a slow signal to hold position. Mariam angled left to watch the pack. Imran spoke without turning his head. "Lion is darted, light dose. Bleeding front paw. Hyenas will rush if he goes down." Yusuf nodded once. "We keep them off. You keep eyes on the lion." Yusuf fired a warning flare into the mud near the closest hyena. The flare hissed and threw sparks. The hyenas jumped back, then circled wider, still laughing in that dry way. Miriam struck a metal bottle against a rock, making a hard ring. The hyenas hesitated and held. The lion took another step toward brush, then stopped and lowered his head. His breathing was loud. A thin line of blood ran from the pad into mud. Imran saw a narrow groove around the joint, old scar tissue split open, the kind of mark wire leaves when it bites and tightens. Imran weighed his next move. If he gave another dart, the lion could collapse and invite a rush. If he did nothing, the drug could still drop him in reeds where they could not reach. He chose to keep the second dart as a last option. The lion looked back once, not at the herd but at Imran. His eyes were steady, not friendly, just assessing. Then he limped into the brush, each front step shorter than the last. The hyenas followed at a distance, 5 shapes slipping between bushes. Imran nodded to Miriam. "Track left. Don't close. Keep noise on the hyenas." Miriam moved along the river edge, keeping sightlines. Yusuf stayed with Imran. They followed the lion's track by broken reeds and the occasional dark smear. After 50 meters, the brush thickened and the ground rose. The lion stopped under a thorn tree and stood with his head against the trunk as if using it to stay upright. The dart's fletching was visible in his shoulder. He tried to lift the injured paw, then set it down again and winced, a small motion in the jaw. Yusuf called base. "We need the vet team. The lion is compromised and hyenas are shadowing." The reply came back fast. "Vet is en route on foot, 10 minutes." Imran kept his body low and his voice calm, but he did not talk to the lion. He watched for the moment the legs would buckle. Miriam kept clapping and moving, never letting the hyenas settle into a rush. When the vet team arrived, they moved with practiced steps. Dr. Sana carried a heavier dart rifle and a small scale kit. She assessed the lion's posture and the wet ground. "He's already partially sedated," she said. "If we top up, we keep his head out of mud and keep hyenas away." They agreed on a controlled second dose, minimal but enough to handle the paw. Sana took position with Yusuf covering her. Imran stayed opposite, ready with rope the instant the lion dropped. Sana fired. The second dart struck lower in the shoulder. The lion flinched, took 2 steps, then sat heavily. His forelegs folded and his chest settled into grass, not mud. "Now," Sana said. Imran and Yusuf moved in together, keeping their bodies between the lion and the hyenas. Miriam shouted and threw a stone wide to keep the pack back. The hyenas surged once, then stopped at the noise and the tight circle of humans. Imran looped rope around the lion's chest and front legs to limit thrashing. Yusuf held the head and kept the muzzle clear of dirt. Sana knelt at the paw. She cut away mud, then cleaned the wound with saline. Under the blood was the same story Imran had suspected: a constriction mark, healed wrong, reopened by strain. In the fur above the pad, a thin strand of wire was still embedded, rusted into skin. Sana used forceps and carefully worked the wire free. The lion's paw twitched once, then relaxed. She flushed the area, injected antibiotic, and wrapped the joint in layered bandage. "This wasn't today," she said. "He's been carrying it." Imran looked at the strand in Sana's tray. It matched the cable from the calf, same gauge, same twist. He felt anger rise, not at the lion or the hyenas, but at whoever had set a line of traps and walked away. They fitted a light tracking collar while the lion was down, checked his breathing, and removed the first dart. Sana recorded the dose and time in a notebook. Yusuf kept scanning for hyenas, counting their positions. Miriam watched the riverbed corridor for any human movement. When the lion began to rouse, they backed away in a tight line. Sana administered a reversal and watched the response. The lion lifted his head, blinked, and pushed up onto 3 legs, keeping the wrapped paw off the ground. He swayed once, then steadied and limped into deeper brush, away from the river. The hyenas followed again, but slower now. With the lion moving, they lost the easy chance. Miriam walked the edge for another 100 meters, making noise, until the pack drifted back toward the riverbed. Imran raised his binoculars toward the herd. The mother stayed tight beside the calf, shielding it as they rejoined the group. The calf still staggered, but it kept breathing and kept moving. That confirmation let Imran shift his focus back to the trap line. Only then did Imran return to the reeds where the calf had been trapped. He and Yusuf searched with care, eyes low. Within minutes they found two more snares, one fresh loop set on a game trail, another older line tied to a hidden stake. They cut both and bagged the wire. Farther along the bank they found footprints in the mud that were not hoof or paw and the pressed mark of a bicycle tire. Imran marked the coordinates and took photos for the report. The rescue had ended, but the cause had not. As the sun rose higher, the riverbed looked empty again, and that emptiness felt false. Somewhere nearby, someone had been setting traps and would return if no one stopped them.